Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kasmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. This afternoon, national security operatives withdraw move to arrest owner of Akonta Mines, Chairman Wontumi, after tense confrontation with his supporters. Also coming up, Alfred Kumi, MPP member at the Central Petition for the Dissolution of the CJ Removal Committee, arrested by National Intelligence Bureau. And much later, government begins major steps to crack down on growing indiscipline in senior high schools with a new mandate for management to search all students. We'll tell you more as the Education Ministry tasked the Director General of GES to implement urgent measures to address the crisis. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Now, a team from National Security who besieged the regional chairman of the opposition MPP's residence at Parakou Estate this morning has withdrawn after tense confrontation with supporters of Chairman Wontumi. Bernard Enchibuesiako has allegedly been placed under house arrest this morning. This comes barely a month after the Financial Intelligence Office froze his bank account and those of his company Akonta Mining. Environmental CSOs have formally lodged a complaint with the police CID for the arrest of Chairman Wontumi over accusations of undertaking illegal mining activities in the Tano Minimiri Forest Reserve. It is still unclear whether this move is linked to that case. William Evans Income is our man monitoring this. He joins us live on the line. Evans, what more can you tell us? Hello, William. And we'll be speaking to William Evans Income very shortly, but let's get a quick thought of security consultant Richard Kumado. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome, Beatrice.
Let me first get your reaction to this latest development.
Definitely there's a misrepresentation somewhere and there's a miscommunication somewhere. If the BNI or the officers from the National Security Secretariat are there to arrest Chairman Wontumi, they will definitely get him arrested. Whether they are there to do a search is another thing. But to that extent, they did not enter the house. They are not sure whether Chairman Wontumi is there or not, and they left the premises. We will be waiting to hear what official communication will be. But that is what it is today.
I want you to hold on because we also know that a member of the New Patriotic Party, Ernest Kumi, has been picked up by security operatives. Now, this is coming barely 24 hours after the release of some videos allegedly involving some judges in a meeting at a restaurant in Accra. Ernest Kumi is the one who petitioned President Mahama to dissolve the 5-member committee to set up to inquire into petitions seeking the removal of the CJ. Mr. Kumado, I will come to you very shortly, but I want us to listen to a private legal practitioner, Bracco Powers, telling us really about his thoughts on this arrest, and then I'll come back to you to get your thoughts as well.
I have been very, very particular about the kind of lifestyle that national security has been about. And this is not the first time. During Akufo-Addo's time, we also saw this Rambo-style arrest. You know, if you're arresting someone for channeling out false information, I mean, an alleged false information, because like I said, I can't readily confirm if it is false information until the court has declared otherwise, or until we have the full facts or documents relating to that. A mere two mere footage cannot in themselves rebut what has been said by the guy. And I can also not verify that what he said was the truth. But let's be mindful, the way national security has been parading along the street with arms and ammunition and trying to explain to people that, yes, they are in charge, it's worrying. Because you see, we are not in a dictatorship. This is a democracy. We criticized this star during Akufo-Addo's time. And it is important we do see during Mohammed's time. Because you see, what is good for the goose is good for the gander. And it is a way of protecting ourselves. The president must rein in on national security. The way they parade arms and move about as if they own the country is not good for us.
Mr. Kumado, do you share the same view?
Definitely, I have always maintained the position that once it becomes clear that you have to be arrested, even when they come with that arrest, you have to be informed the reason why you are being arrested. As to the operational strategy and operational tactics, it all depends on whoever is leading the operation and what they want to achieve. In a democracy where there are privacy laws and human rights have to be observed, National Security Secretariat officers and the BNI and the police will have to act in a manner that supports standard procedure. And where there are difficulties, people are likely to call them out, knowing very well that the outcome of their actions and decisions could be challenged in court, or it can become a problem for them afterwards. For the Kumi guy, I don't really know why he was arrested, but if it is true he has been arrested and is being paraded on social media, then of course the Zola would have been informed why he was arrested, whether it pertains to the video or whichever one we are talking about.
I mean, aside from informing the person who is under arrest, as it were, how else do you think National Security, NIB, and the rest can really make their work better in the eyes of Ghanaians? I mean, even when they have a case.
A whole lot of misrepresentation and propaganda and, a bit of bravado and machoism. So it gives rise to people who want to criticize their work to do so. With many years I have served in the BNI. When we want to arrest you, you will be informed arrested. And it is done as simple as that. We don't draw the crowd. And no matter how many people come around, you'll be arrested and we get out of the place. So probably, to the extent that it's becoming an issue, there will be the need to look at it again and let the best approach prevail.
Mr. Kumado, thank you very much for speaking to us this afternoon. Richard Kumado is a security consultant. And let's return to that story about that team from the NIB or National Security abandoning that intention to arrest Chairman Wontumi because of that confrontation with his supporters. Our reporter William Evans Inkum sent us this report earlier.
I will not be like.
Came here. The motive is not clear, but they have been moving around while the chairman remained stuck in his house. We still do not know the motive for which they came here, but the moment they arrived, scores of party supporters also came, spent about 20 minutes, and then they left. They had wanted to fly a drone, but that drone, we cannot independently confirm whether it was shot down, but they complained that the drone was tampered with and they had to leave. They left without laying a hand on the chairman of the MPP here in the Ashanti region. The supporters of the party are still here and they are bent on remaining here until they are convinced that the chairman of the MPP is safe. So we will be speaking to lawyer Kwame Adumapia very soon for him to tell us what led to this particular invasion. Of course, I mean, the operative of national security, they are not speaking to us. They've left, as I said early on, but we will be engaging lawyer Kwame Adumapia to let us know whether there has been some level of communication between chairman and then national operative. Know why the operative from national security were here?
I asked from the leader of the team, and he told me that they've been asked to bring him to Accra And we were able to resolve the issue. So later on in the following week, we will make sure that he responds to their invitation.
Do we know why they are inviting him?
We are not aware of that. We are not aware of the reason. They never told us. You know, when a constabulary duty is to be done, the policeman's lot is not the best. You are asked to bring the person. That is what they were told.
Not too long ago, the issue of Akonta mining came up, and we know a couple of people around him were invited. Do we know whether it has to do with that?
It is a sin for a lawyer to conjecture. A lawyer goes by the actual facts. I cannot conjecture that, or I cannot speculate that it was because of ABCD that he was being invited. But if it was, which I deny, if it was in relation to a Akonta mining issue, then the mode of arrest is bad.
Very much. So we have been speaking to lawyer Kwame Adumapia, counsel for Bernard Ntwibu Esiako. Of course, the Ashanti Regional Secretary of the Opposition NPP. William Evansinkum, back to your studios. This morning, some person.
And we'll bring you more as and when we have information on this issue. Now, the Member of Parliament for Otafo, Vincent Asefwa, has petitioned the International Labour Organization against what he describes as political discrimination and unfair dismissal in the public sector. He says the action violates Ghanaian and international labour standards and called on ILO to address the injustices to ensure fair recruitment practices for all. Let's look at some details of this petition. That his overall concerns targeted terminations of civil and public servants, including contract staff perceived to be affiliated with the NPP. Also, lack of due process in dismissals, including the absence of hearings or formal reviews. In that petition, he also talks about replacement of dismissed staff with partisan loyalists without transparent recruitment processes, and also violation of the political neutrality expected within Ghana's public service under the Labour Act 2003, Act 651, and Civil Service Regulations. Also, the request to the ILO, he's talking about an independent inquiry, or asking actually for independent inquiry into the recent wave of dismissals in Ghana's public sector, issuance of a public statement addressing these developments and calling for an immediate halt to politically motivated terminations. Engagement with Ghanaian authorities in dialogue under the framework of Convention 111 and relevant ILO principles. Provision of technical support and guidance to help restore politically neutral, merit-based recruitment systems within the public sector. And so that's what Vincent Asafwa, MP for Old Tafo, has written in that petition to the International Labour Organization. Well, the Minister of Labour, Jobs and Employment has described as unfair an attempt by Vincent Asafwa to petition, which I just read to you. The minister says that the NPP government recruited 12,000 people illegally, and so it was proper that the government should dismiss them. Dr. Rashid Purple spoke exclusively with our Labour Affairs correspondent, Daniel Opoku, in Accra.
If it will go anywhere at all, we also have a voice to speak. We'll tell the story.
My final question, when you go to the ILO at this table before you, definitely you present the position of government.
I will present a very strong position of government. In fact, fair recruitment is critical in ILO, job recruitment process. And it is something we devote a lot of time for. In fact, in the last 4 days, I was in Geneva. It was all about fair recruitment. And if it is proven that the people they say they have sacked were not recruited fairly, there was no competition, how come they were all NPP? How come all the people who have been recruited in the 12,000 people, forcibly and illegally recruited are all NPP? Were there no other Ghanaians? So if he's talking about why they are dismissed, Also ask yourself, why are they all one-party people? Why wouldn't you behave like Professor Mills did? Why didn't they behave like that? And why did they just sack the people they sacked and left precedent for others to follow? So let him come. Let us have a chat. Let us see how we can stretch this to cover the whole period from, Jerry Rawlings was a little not looking at party matters, but from Kufuor, President Kufuor, up to now, why did this thing happen? How can we address it? It will be much more objective. It will be more nationalistic. It will be more patriotic. It will be more forthright in defining how we want to solve this problem.
Thank you very much, Honorable.
Thank you.
And I heard the Labour Minister, Dr. Rashid Pelpo. Now, in a renewed effort to tackle the growing indiscipline in secondary schools, the government has granted school management permits to conduct search on all students. This is only one of several measures to be implemented to address the worrying trend. The Deputy Education Minister, Dr. Clement Apak, in an update, indicated that the recent happenings form part of the governing party's long-held desire to review the free senior high school program to improve its current status. We do know that the Director General of the Ghana Education Service, for instance, has been tasked to liaise with the Services Council to formulate immediate interventions to tackle the canker, and we'll be speaking to Clement Apak very shortly. You're still here on the Midday News on 3FM 92.7.
Ghana, it's a new year and Bills Microcredit is here to support your dreams. If you're not working but want to start a business, don't let money stop you. With just your Ghana card, you can get a loan to turn your ideas into reality. Already running a business? Need more capital? Or are you a salary worker looking for extra funds? Bills offers fast and easy loans with no collateral, no deposit, and no SUSI savings required. Wherever you are, whatever you need, Bills makes it happen. Call Bills Microcredit today. Call 0596 920 833 or 0302 200 390 and get started. Bills is licensed and regulated by the Bank of Ghana. Bills, financing your needs. Terms and conditions apply.
Freezer, get the abba. Adama for the abba. A freezer. Adama. Akwa semensia Adama metimosua masore kanino obobo mu ase a adwofrefre no bia mienu miensa na se nan atene wotimi di apase Adama fo adwena kuafo ho ahu se ye de aduro ba kope e be chifu ye bia technology akofo freezer ba wenku a eno anto benya 15 liters ni wa hwiegum watia no hwiegum o de basia fu ye bia ni wa basia bio ekoti se obetimo no nemu ye sure say o mention tasie nemu asena for na no freezer umpa we na apade freezer
Dasia, ebe so doso amoni age.
Omuti na me wasika omuti na me di me nyina duru ba bi so mdu Adama wo that Adama no kua Adama you can't resist.
Ubenya Adama West Africa for edwe bi wo be bibia ye ton kai ho edwu afi kayo na kenkan enchoya ewo edru hu.
Some 20 minutes past the hour of 12. This is still the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. Let's bring in Dr. Clement Apak, Deputy Minister for Education, and we'll have to get back to him. And we do have on the line with us Dr. Clement Apak, his Deputy Education Minister. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, good afternoon.
Doc, so one of the things you are learning as regards the renewed effort to ensure that there's discipline on our campuses or in our schools has been to formulate immediate intervention to tackle this canker, and that's a directive given to the Ghana Education Service. Are you able to tell us more about this very directive?
Well, let me say good afternoon to our listeners and to indicate that the rampant and worrying phenomena of indiscipline in our secondary schools is a source of concern to government, the ministry, the minister, and of course to Ghanaians. We have been recording reports of students exhibiting all manner of unacceptable behavior and conduct. Teacher unions have been passionately calling for some immediate action with regards to these kinds of unacceptable conducts, some including violent behavior between students and host communities, and sometimes targeted at the teachers and even the headmasters. Whilst it is the truth to state that this is a fallout of the poor implementation of the free senior high school program by the previous government, since we took over the reins of governance, we have initiated some interventions towards immediately addressing these worrisome phenomena, even as we look at a more holistic review of the policies implementation as recommended by Ghanaians.
And I want to understand. When you say that it's because of the poor implementation of the free senior high school, what is the correlation here? Because I know ahead of the elections, one of the main problem the opposition had, then opposition, was how this whole thing was being financed and other bits not necessarily related to discipline. So are you able to help us understand further what you mean by that?
We had concerns about discipline. I mean, nobody can accept or should think it is acceptable that students would destroy public property, destroy the property of headmasters and teachers, including farms, vehicles, dormitory blocks, classrooms, because they were being prevented to cheat in an exam. It cannot be acceptable that senior students will be choking and almost killing students in dormitories. It cannot be acceptable that students would take weapons, cutlasses, daggers, knives, and even much more recently, guns to school. So we've always spoken about all of this. And so part of our decision to review the implementation of the program is to address some of these issues. But recently, you may have heard that a student was apprehended in a school in the Ashanti region with a weapon. You also heard a report of where a student took a weapon to school and ended up shooting a fellow student, a girl. So we've always spoken about all of these issues. But the point is, what are we doing? Since we took over, the minister has intervened by allowing the heads of our secondary schools to conduct searches, which was previously unheard of. So the headmasters and the school authorities now have the right, as granted by the ministry through the Ghana Education Service, to search job boxes, trunks, and even in dormitories. And some of those searches are revealing to us that the situation is much more dangerous than we thought. The other immediate intervention was to reinstate parent-teacher associations to pre-2017 status, the very strange decision by the former government to disband parent-teacher associations and replace that with PAs, parent associations, we believe also contributed to what we are seeing. Because the parents have always played a very important role in helping the teachers and managers of our secondary schools to manage our schools. So we expect that these two are interim, even as we look forward to a more holistic review on the basis of the outcome of the National Education Forum.
How soon do you expect these interventions from the Ghana Education Service, as indicated in your directive, for implementation?
In fact, the idea of searching the luggages, trunks, store boxes, and dormitories, that directive has already been given to the heads of our secondary school. So if we were to call the charge president, he would confirm that this is happening. In fact, it was because we have given permission for that to be done that the recent incident of a student bringing a gun to school in a school in the Ashanti region came to light. It was through a search. And the PTAs have also been restored. So we would want to urge parents to play and take an active role in the conduct of the awards. On the other hand, we want to urge the heads of the institutions to also involve parents in the management of the institution. So these two are already going. But we don't believe these two alone are sufficient. Consequently, the minister has directed the Director General of the Ghana Education Service to engage the Ghana Education Service Council to look at further immediate steps towards addressing this and other issues, even as we wait to roll out a more holistic review of the program with the intent of making it sustainable and improved.
Dr. Park, thank you so much for speaking to us.
You're welcome.
Dr. Clement Park is a Deputy Education Minister. Thank you so much for joining us on the news this afternoon. Log on to StreetNews.com for more news. My name is Beatrice Adu. Have a good afternoon.
Get ready, Ghana. The road is calling and the wheels are spinning. It's the 3FM Tour du Ghana happening Saturday, 7th June 2025. From the heart of Accra to the border town of Aplao, we are pedaling for the planet in a thrilling 192-kilometer ride across Ghana's scenic eastern corridor. Whether you're a seasoned cyclist or a passionate pedal pusher, this is your moment to shine. Form your teams, grab your helmet, and race for glory in Ghana's biggest cycling showdown. Challenge your limits, conquer the distance, ride for sustainability, be part of history. To register, call 0531 100 927 or 0532 200 927. 3FM Tour du Ghana, powered by 3FM.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Ausa. Coming up this afternoon, Ghana's public debt hit 764.4 billion cedis in first quarter of 2025 despite economic expansion as fiscal deficit remains contained and primary balance records surplus. Meanwhile, cedi rebounds strongly, gaining 24.1% against US dollar in first 5 months of 2025. We'll bring you details as Bank of Ghana attributes gains to improved market confidence and tight monetary policies. Plus, Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana set to announce new policy rate today as caution grows over premature optimism amid slowing inflation and fragile growth prospects. These stories and others lined up for you. Please stay. Thanks for your company. Now to the very first story. Ghana's total public debt rose sharply by 42.7 billion cedis in the first quarter of 2025, reaching 769.4 billion cedis in March. That's according to Bank of Ghana's latest summary of financial and economic data. Despite the nominal increase, the debt to GDP ratio dropped to 55%, reflecting an expansion in the country's economy, which now stands at 1.4 trillion cedis. The following 3 Business News Desk report has the details. In dollar terms, the debt stands at $49.5 billion US dollars, marginally higher than the level recorded in December 2024. However, thanks to an expanded economy now valued at 1.4 trillion cedis, the country's debt to GDP ratio dropped to 55%, easing pressure on the government's debt sustainability outlook. Domestically, debt levels moved from 320.1 billion cedis in January to 328 billion cedis in February, confirming a steady reliance on the local market for financing. The upward trend, while notable, comes against a backdrop of relatively low government spending. The report also shows that the fiscal deficit stood at just 1% of GDP in March, indicating disciplined spending. Even more encouraging, Ghana recorded a primary surplus of 0.3%, meaning the government spent less than it earned, excluding interest payments. Economic analysts are crediting the improved debt metrics partly to a stronger than expected GDP growth in early 2025. They, however, caution that without stronger revenue mobilization, the country could struggle to maintain this fiscal path, especially if external shocks or election-related pressures emerge. The focus in the coming months will be on how Ghana sustains its economic growth while keeping debt under control. Policymakers face the delicate task of balancing development spending with long-term debt sustainability. And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on Ghana's debt hitting 769.4 billion cedis in first quarter of 2025 despite economic expansion. Meanwhile, the May 2025 Summary of Economic and Financial Data also reveals that the cedi has seen a significant appreciation against the US dollar, rising by 24.1% in May 2025 alone. This impressive gain follows a 3.9% appreciation in April 2025, which earned the cedi the title of the world's best performing currency, according to Bloomberg. There is more in the following 3 Business News Desk report.
After starting the year on a weak note with a 3.9% depreciation in January and further declining by 5.3% in February and March 2025, the cedi made a stunning comeback in April, appreciating by 3.9% against the US dollar and earning the title of the world's best performing currency by Bloomberg. The cedi's momentum continued in May with a remarkable 24.1% appreciation against the dollar, trading at 11 cedis 85 pesos compared to 15 cedis 30 pesos in January, according to latest data from the Bank of Ghana. This impressive performance extends to other major currencies, with the cedi appreciating by 16.2% against the British pound, now trading at 15 cedis 84 pesos from 19 Ghana cedis at the start of the year, and 14.1% against the euro, trading at 13 cedis 34 pesos from 15 cedis 90 pesos from January 2025, underscoring the cedi's resilience and Ghana's improving economic fundamentals. Finance Minister Dr. Kasiel Atoforsen has assured stakeholders that the cedi's recent appreciation is not a temporary phenomenon, but rather the result of deliberate economic management and would be sustained.
And that was another 3 Business News Desk report on the cedi rebounding strongly, gaining 24.1% against US dollar in first 5 months of 2025. Moving on, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has wrapped up its meetings and is expected to announce a new policy rate later today, Friday, May 23, 2025. The decision comes at a time when inflation is easing, but economic growth remains fragile, sparking speculation over whether the central bank will hold the key rate at 28% or tighten further to sustain this inflation. The following 3 Business News Desk report has the details.
The Bank of Ghana is expected to announce its latest monetary policy decision later today, following the conclusion of a 3-day meeting by the Monetary Policy Committee. This comes on the back of a steady disinflation trend, with headline inflation dropping to 16.5% in April from 17.1% the previous month, and a peak of 51.1% in December 2022. While this signals progress in restoring price stability, the central bank remains cautious. In its most recent communication, it warned against premature optimism, citing persistent risks to the inflation outlook, including global oil prices, food supply shocks, and exchange rate volatility. The policy rate currently stands at 28%, having been held steady since January 2024. Analysts are split on the likely outcome. Some expect a hold to support fragile recovery, while others argue a marginal hike may be necessary to anchor expectations as the cedi continues to weaken. The first quarter of 2025 saw GDP growth slow to 2.9% compared to 3.7% in the last quarter of 2024, reflecting tight credit conditions and weak consumer demand. The bank's next move will be closely watched by investors, businesses, and households alike, with implications for the borrowing costs and economic confidence.
A report on the expected new policy rate announcement later today. Now, in barely 24 hours, public transport fares are expected to reduce by 15%. The Ghana Private Road Transport Union, GPRTU, had earlier announced the reduction in transport fares. The new fares take effect from tomorrow, Saturday, May 24, 2025. This decision follows the recent sustained appreciation of the Ghana cedi against major foreign currencies. The following report has details.
The announcement follows growing public pressure for a reduction in transport fares after 6 consecutive drops in fuel prices at the pumps. The Ghana cedi has also strengthened against the US dollar, appreciating by more than 16% this year. It is currently trading at around 12 cedis 33 pesos to the dollar, compared to about 15 Ghana cedis at the start of the year. The public relations officer of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, GPRTU, Alhaji Abbas Imoro, told 3 Business in an exclusive interview ahead of an official announcement expected tomorrow that transport fares are set to be reduced.
After a marathon meeting with the Transport Ministry, we finally decided to reduce lorry fares by 15%, but effective from coming Saturday. We considered so many things. Resetting of Ghana, this is our contribution of resetting Ghana. We are not waiting till the normal ingredients that we use before preparing for reduction or increment.
He has also urged the public to report drivers who fail to comply with the new fare directive to the police.
If anybody misbehaves, it is only the law that you have to hand him over to. Don't beat the driver and the maid. They are only 2, and normally there will be as many as 12, 14, 30, 40 passengers against only 2 people. If the driver and his maid misbehaved, you only thing to do is just to hand them over to the police.
And that was a report on the expected 15% reduction in transport fares effective tomorrow. Now, finance lecturer at the University of Professional Studies, Accra, Dr. Eric Boachie-Yadom, is calling for greater protection of indigenous businesses to help the government generate revenue and safeguard local jobs. He believes there has been a consistent pattern over the years of targeting Ghanaian-owned businesses, citing the recent backlash faced by Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited as an example. Speaking at a national dialogue on tackling tax revenue leakages organized by UPSA, Dr. Adu said constructive engagement is crucial in addressing concerns surrounding local business operations to ensure their sustainability.
If we check in Ghana, hardly are we going to have a third generation business, a business that has been run by somebody handing over to another person and another person handing it to the next person. On top of my head, I can talk about Enterprise and Nkulenu and probably about 2 or 3 companies that have lived through, because when a business is built, the same Ghanaian will rise up to collapse it. We'll have challenges in the way that we run our businesses. But let's not kill them. Let's have a dialogue to talk about it. What we learn from history is that people do not learn from their history. And we should not be a country that kills entrepreneurs. We should be a country that encourages entrepreneurs. There will be problems, but the problems can be fixed.
And that was financial analyst of the University of Professional Studies, Accra, Dr. Beatrice Adu, ending Business Daily with me, Bismarck Ausa, for more business stories.